in the future, we're all going to have our own personal AI shopping assistant. AI was going to fundamentally transform and really verticalize every single industry with different application layers. And so we really felt like that was going to be the case when it came to e-commerce. We spent about a year in a beta where we basically had hundreds of people test and try and use the product and then essentially give us extremely ruthless feedback about what they felt was confusing, what was not actually solving a pain point for them. Are we actually helping people? Does this actually solve a problem for them? And until that is the case, until we feel like that is true, we are not going to launch this product publicly. As a founder and as a business owner, it is so important for you to actually be actively dog fooding and using your product. It is now definitely true that there is a huge opportunity for founder-led brands and also for companies to really be boots on the ground, making their own content and really investing in creating a community and an audience that is bought into what they're doing.
Yo, it's the future. Don't hit the snooze. AI is here giving humans the boost. Team Humans rolling, brains in the game with Dan Turchin. Y'all remember the name. People reign in the mix, no stopping the flow. Better work, better life, yeah, we're ready to go. Robots and humans, a collab, you know. Okay, let's start the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome back to AI in the Future of Work. I'm your host, Dan Turchin, CEO of PeopleRain, the AI platform for IT and HR employee service. And we've got a very special guest for today's episode. Sophia Kianni is an Iranian-American social entrepreneur and activist. She's the founder of Phia, an AI shopping agent with 1 million plus users. The team has raised more than $43 million from an impressive list of investors that includes Kris Jenner, Sara Blakely, and Hailey Bieber. Sophia also hosts the amazing The Burnouts podcast. I started binge listening to it. I love it. It has more than 600,000 followers and has been downloaded more than 200 million times. Sophia graduated from Stanford University Go Card and is the founder of Climate Cardinals, the world's largest youth-led climate nonprofit, more than 20,000 volunteers. She's the youngest United Nations advisor in U.S. history, and she served on the EPA's National Youth Advisory Council. But one thing that Sophia has not yet done is been on AI in the Future of Work. That's about to change. Sophia, welcome to the podcast. Share a bit more about who is Sophia Kianni and what was the founding vision for Phia?
Well, first, I'm so excited to be on today. So thank you for the incredibly generous introduction. I am Sophia Kianni. I am the co-founder of Phia and the co-host of The Burnouts. And essentially, the background is that I came up with the idea for Phia with my Stanford roommate, Phoebe, when we were basically juniors at Stanford, roughly around 3 years ago. We were both fascinated by the fact that we felt like there was a platform shift happening where AI was going to fundamentally transform and really verticalize every single industry with different application layers. And so we really felt like that was going to be the case when it came to e-commerce. We both also loved shopping, and so selfishly wanted to build a better experience for ourselves when we were going about our shopping behavior. And so that's where we came up with the initial concept for Phia, really with the thesis that in the future, we're all going to have our own personal AI shopping assistant. So we've been really building on that vision over the last 3 years.
I've heard you speak, and Phoebe as well, and I know how committed you are to building a company the right way. Maybe talk to us about how you're intentionally building the team and the culture at Phia.
100%. I would say that I definitely have come to learn that the team you build is the company that you build. I honestly learned this when I was building my first venture, Climate Cardinals, which was essentially, it's a global youth-led climate change nonprofit. And when I first went about starting Climate Cardinals, I realized how important it is to empower people who are high agency with a huge amount of ownership so that they really feel pride over the work that they're doing and they feel like they're making a difference and that everyone is really empowered by a similar mission statement. And so, I mean, my first experience building a team was basically going and finding my smartest friends and asking them if they wanted to build a nonprofit with me. And so now that I've been really working on building the team at Phia, I realized that it really is not that different in the sense that, what are the qualities that you look for when it comes to someone you want to work with? Are they kind? Are they high agency? Are they willing to work hard? And being able to bring people around the fold who feel an immense amount of pride and ownership in what they're building and who feel bonded by a common goal. I would say that's all a huge part of the culture that we're building. The office dog and in-person culture definitely helps as well.
One of the things I know from binge listening to the burnouts is how you and Phoebe celebrate empowering consumers, empowering entrepreneurs. How much do you feel like you can attribute the success at Phia so far? I realize it's new, but to that kind of ethos about the empowerment of consumers.
I would definitely say it has been super important for us to build with a consumer first lens. It definitely is helpful that Phoebe and I really are the target demographic that we are building for. And a huge part of our culture, for example, is every 2 weeks we will bring power users, usually women in New York, to our office to actually sit down, use the app in front of us, give us feedback, tell us what they love, more importantly, what they hate. And so being able to build with that mindset of our goal is to be able to help millions of people just shop smarter, feel like they are using their money and time more wisely. So to be able to see that really mirrored also when we look at our data, seeing our return rate, for example, is 50% lower than the industry average, that people are really reporting higher levels of customer satisfaction, that is a huge win for us and it's a huge win for our consumers. And so that has definitely been a core part of the way that we have built the company and definitely what we will continue to do moving forward.
I think many people would look at the intersection of social and shopping pre-Phia and say, oh, it's a solved problem. You know, TikTok is already generating billions in making recommendations to TikTok users, but it kind of wasn't a solved problem. How did you go about finding a space in the intersection of those two that represented a market opportunity?
I would say that for us, our main pain point and what we realized is that when we were at Stanford, when we were in our dorm room and we were shopping, we just realized that consumers feel overwhelmed by friction and essentially an infinite amount of opportunity. And there's no reason why, me and you, Dan, should land on a page and see the exact same recommendations. There should be an additional layer of filtering that is done so that each person is really getting personalized recommendations that are attuned to their preferences. And we really realized that there was not a one-stop platform that was explicitly focused on shopping specifically to be able to really innovate on how can we make sure this is a whimsical, delightful, but also extremely informative kind of opportunity to help people to buy better and more mindfully. And so I definitely think that for us, we were confident that especially with the advent of AI, there was this opportunity for that verticalization of that application layer when it came to e-commerce. And we've been really pleased to see that now that we've crossed over like 1.4 million users, the customer feedback has really just been astounding in terms of how much better people feel like this is making their shopping journey. And so we want to continue to iterate with that feedback to understand where are the other kind of points of friction and where can we continue to innovate to make this a better experience.
Sophia, I did some field research as prep for this conversation. And because I'm old and I'm a curmudgeon, I went to my daughters who are teenagers and I said, I want you to give me your impressions of Phia. And they did. And they were happy to participate in the field research exercise. And they said, this was their words, after using Phia, all the other alternatives feel gross. And I think I took that to mean, the recommendations were better and they felt it was more trustworthy, which most of social content, I guess this is me on a soapbox, but doesn't feel trustworthy. Talk about some of the decisions that you made to create that kind of brand affinity and that trust with your audience.
Well, first, that feedback means the world. And if they ever want to send me any of their product feedback, even if it's not great, I would love to hear it. And I honestly think that is really what has been the center of the way that we've developed at Phia. I'll give a story prior to us launching. So we actually launched publicly 12 months ago. So before that, we spent about a year in a beta where we basically had hundreds of people test and try and use the product and then essentially give us extremely ruthless feedback about what they felt was confusing, what was not actually solving a pain point for them. And so continuing to develop with this philosophy of, are we actually helping people? Does this actually solve a problem for them? And until that is the case, until we feel like that is true, we are not going to launch this product publicly. I think that was a really good decision. Continuing to iterate in that kind of framework of what is the actual problem we are solving? What is the hypothesis behind this feature prior to us actually releasing it? That has been a really good way that we've kept a pulse on is what we're building actually valuable to our customer? And so I would definitely say that that's something that has helped us to differentiate and also helped us to make really good decisions. And like I said, I love shopping. Our engineering and product team definitely see the bug reporting channel with all of my feedback from my nightly shopping sessions. And I do think as a founder and as a business owner, it is so important for you to actually be actively dog fooding and using your product and to be the target person who you're building for, because it makes it a lot easier to stay in lockstep with really the whole future of the company to make sure you feel proud of the decisions that you're making.
Today's episode is brought to you by my company, PeopleRain. As you hopefully know, PeopleRain is the AI platform that automates work. Tens of millions of employees around the world get back 4 to 6 hours per week because PeopleRain automates away the friction. Imagine a world where your teams never have to wait for technology upgrades or to have a human reset their password or get added to a distribution list or get help with payroll, PTO, or benefits. Inbox zero for the help desk, zero friction for employees. That's the future of work. That's PeopleRain. We're offering all members of Team Human, and hey, that's you, our listeners, an exclusive discount on PeopleRain just for being part of this amazing community. Get the discount code at peoplerain.io/podcast. That's PeopleRain, like the reign of a king or queen.io/podcast. Now back to this week's conversation. Before we started recording, you and I were talking about a great episode of The Burnouts with the CEO of Duolingo, which is kind of epic. And one of the things I loved about that conversation is it was clear you and Phoebe were genuinely interested in learning from him as someone who's built a really impressive social a brand and a social following. You and Phia and Phoebe and Phia are also influencers on social channels. What are some tips that you have for others who are looking to kind of aspire to the kind of success you've had on social?
Yeah, I would definitely say that creating content is not something that I ever imagined would be part of my career. If you had told me that a few years ago, I would have been pretty surprised. I always thought that those two things operated separately, but it is now definitely true that there is a huge opportunity for founder-led brands and also for companies to really be boots on the ground, making their own content and really investing in creating a community and an audience that is bought into what they're doing. And so content creation has increasingly become very important as a way to educate people about our product, about our team, about opportunities, about our iteration. And I would definitely say that in terms of tools and how I do that content creation, a big thing for me is definitely that I don't like context switching too much. So if I'm planning content for the week, let's say, for example, if I'm filming content, I like to do that all on one day. Me and Phoebe, even when we record the podcast, we will often do multiple episodes in a day, back to back, and we'll switch our outfits. But then in that way, we prevent it from disrupting the rest of our work schedule. Same thing on the weekends. Sundays are usually the days that I will write LinkedIn posts, for example. I'll get those all done, scheduled, and then I don't need to think about it for the rest of the week, and I'm able to be fully immersed in like product and marketing work. And so I would definitely recommend that as in terms of like structure and workflow as a way to make content kind of part of the way that you're planning your week and the work that you're doing if you are a founder or someone where content can be really beneficial to the work that you're doing.
What I hear, which is a through line through all of the very successful influencers that I interview, is it's disciplined, it's structured, it's planned, it's coordinated, it's never an accident. And I think it's a testament to how you're building the business. But what are some of the metrics that you use? At what point did when do you know to course correct, and how are you beyond just views and kind of maybe the traditional metrics? What are you looking for to determine whether or not you're having an impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, I would say something that's definitely very important for both the burnouts and Phia is that we run both marketing teams extremely data oriented. So we are often testing and swapping different variables when it comes to the content that we're making. So, for example, if we're making different reels, we're looking at the hook rate, the hook duration, what the retention of the video is, what are the different subjects and the different variables that we're A B testing, everything down to the fonts. What is the color of the fonts? What is the type of font we're using? What kind of caption are we testing? What emojis are we using? All of this is really a science. It is a formula. And so for both teams, that's something I'm very involved in. Is I'm a very data oriented person. So we have structure and frameworks for what are all of the different variables that we're testing across different types of content formats. And then at the end of the week, we will do a review for both teams on what is working really well, what did we see virality and success with this week, what were the specific variables that helped to influence that subsequent virality, and then maybe what did not work super well. And then what do we think is the reason that that content did not resonate or didn't work well? And what can we learn from it so that the next week we iterate in a more efficient way? And I mean, I was looking at some of our data last night, and even on like the burnouts alone, we've done hundreds of millions of views between burnouts and Phia. We're approaching close to 1 billion views in the last year across all platforms. And so it definitely has been something that our team has iterated on a lot to be able to learn, even tooling. We always are experimenting with what are different AI tools that we can use to make the content creation process faster, more efficient, be able to pull better things into it. And so I would definitely say that those have all become core parts of our marketing iteration process.
We had a creator, a gentleman named William Osman from Open Sauce on the podcast a couple years ago. And he's also had about 1 billion views on YouTube of silly science videos. And it was incredible listening to him describe the craft. I mean, he's like an ethnographer and a scientist. And when you see the silly videos, you're like, oh, he just, got out of bed and made a video. There's like military precision that goes into the planning and the assessment. And I hear the same thing in when you describe your process.
100%. I mean, I always tell our teams we are scientists. We are 120% scientists. Every single variable, every single thing that goes into making a piece of content needs to be documented and structured in a way where we can do analysis. And I also always would say, like, I audit workflows for efficiency to be able to understand, for example, a really good example of this is that for the burnouts, a lot of the clips that we make for socials, they have a lot of B-roll in them. And so when I was sitting down with the people on our team who make these clips, I was asking them, how long does making one clip take you? And they were saying maybe over an hour. And I thought that was very long. And so I asked kind of what was one of the biggest portions of that. And they said that sourcing copyright-free B-roll was something very difficult. And so that's where we started using like Adobe Firefly to AI generate B-roll based on prompts of, I want this to show someone typing on a computer, for example. And that cut down a ton of the time that we were kind of spending on different parts of the content creation process, or even when we're editing long form videos. How can you use this to enhance the speech, to reduce background noise? Like, how can we create a soundtrack? All of those things. So that's part of the reason I genuinely love Adobe Firefly and the different AI tools that we've been using, because I do think that the more you can remove friction from these processes of the things that are not inherently creative, the things that are just causing a lot of time and energy to be used by your creative teams that would be better placed on other things like research, then you're able to just make your team like overall much, much more efficient. And also, obviously, like, I want people to spend their time on the parts that are more enjoyable of the process.
Well said. Unbelievably, we're about out of time for this lightning fast conversation. But Sophia, you're not going anywhere without answering one last very important question for me. You're talking to a lot of aspiring, not just influencers or creators, but also entrepreneurs. And whether it's my daughters or anyone else who might have at some point in their lives been told, you can't do that. You can't achieve this. You can't achieve, you don't look the right way. You don't act the right way. Give me an example of a time when you were obviously insanely ambitious and uncommonly talented, but at some point someone told you you can't do something because of dot, dot, dot. What was that moment and how'd you overcome it?
Ooh, that's a good question. This might be a different answer than you expected, but I do think surrounding yourself with people who do believe in you and who do constantly speak positively about what you are capable of is something extremely important. That is something when I look back at my upbringing and my high school years and just generally with some of my formative experiences, something I'm very grateful to my parents for is my parents genuinely told me I was capable of anything. When I wanted to be an astronaut, my dad was like, "You are going to be the best astronaut ever." And I really think having a circle of people who constantly are affirming that you are capable of anything that you put your mind to, no matter how outlandish, is extremely important to actually be able to believe those things. So I'm sure there's been constant instances over the last few years where someone has told me, I don't like agree with this thing that you're doing, or I don't believe that your company or your nonprofit or your podcast is going to be successful. But the fact I can't think of them should tell you that to me it is just sweat on my back. It just completely rolls off. I don't even register it. I don't even spend time dwelling or thinking about it because my mindset has been so crafted by the people whose opinions I actually highly value to believe that I am capable of accomplishing anything that I put my mind to. And I also think that is generally a really strong and good mindset to develop is I have a very strict framework for prioritization of feedback. If anyone on my team, anyone that I work with is giving me feedback of a way that I can improve and be better, that is something that is very important to me and something that I take a lot of stock in. If it's someone that is not within my framework of people whom I really value their opinion, like they've done something that I want to do, they've accomplished things that I aspire to do, like there's a reason why I'm listening to their feedback. If someone doesn't fit in that bucket, it ultimately is noise. You need to take advice from the people who are in a position in their life that you are aspiring to get to really be able to prioritize feedback accordingly. And so that's definitely advice that I would give people. Like your circle, the way you speak to yourself, the way other people speak to you is very important. And it is a huge indicator of how you will become successful. So be very mindful of how you filter the kind of energy and the kind of conversations that enter your mindset, because it does really impact the way that you show up for others.
That attitude will get you anywhere you want to go. I love the way you describe that. Um, well, gosh, you must come back for a longer version of this. It feels like we're just getting started. This has been wonderful. The brand is Phia. That's the great Sophia Kianni. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this. We will definitely do a longer version of this in the future. I would love to.
Open invite. We'll do it. Well, gosh, that is all the time we have for this lightning round of AI in the future of work. Of course, we're back next week with another fascinating guest.
Yo, it's the end of the show, time to power it down. AI's the sis, but humans wear the crown. Team human in the house, got the vibe so clever. Dan Turchin from People Rain, making us better. We learned about AI for humans. We're ready to conquer the future, that's all for now. See you next time.